Exactly. It's a positive loop. But it is a gateway drug, Andrew. Cannabis is a gateway drug. And I have found that it is a gateway to health and wellness.
Weed to know.
G'day,
Weed to
I'm
know.
Andrew Fenwick,
Cannabis
and welcome to
info
a
on a
Weed to Know.
weed to know basis. Weed to know. Interviews and news, cannabis info on a weed to know basis. Weed to know. Weed to know. Weed to know.
And welcome to a Weed to Know, a place to come for your cannabis news and views. Today's a really special little interview. We've got Paul Benhaim joining us predominantly to talk about a really, really interesting therapy or facilitated experience that he's developed. But this guy has been an absolute pioneer in the hemp industry. He started hemp foods in the UK when there was no such thing. He came here and spent nearly 2 decades working to get food standards changed here so that hemp seeds and oil could be consumed by humans, and then set up one of the most successful hemp food companies. He's involved in textiles, plastics, building materials, everything. But this new experience is really good. So I hope you really enjoy this. Give us some feedback in the comments below. Like and share, and let's get out there and have some fun with the cannabis industry. And hello, Paul Benhaim, and how are you going today?
Awesome. What a wonderful day it is to be alive.
It is, especially in this world of cannabis and hemp that you live in, up in your little sanctuary in Mullumbimby. Lovely place to be. Just so that people get a bit of an understanding of where you've come from, I see you as a bit of a hemp pioneer in terms of your early adaptation to the hemp food industry in the UK
Mhm.
and into Australia. Can you just give me a quick rundown on how that all rolled out for you, and what were you doing before that anyway?
I was at school before that, and I left about 17, decided to travel to Asia to explore the world and indigenous cultures particularly. And in those indigenous cultures, I learned a few things about food and nutrition and why people were so vibrant. I also learned about the pollution in beautiful places like the Himalayas. And soon after, I discovered the wonderful cannabis plant, or hemp plant, as some people like to call it, same thing. It contained all of these amazing alternatives to fossil fuels, to polluting products, and to non-nutritious foods. So the more I looked into it, the more I found that was real, and decided to find sources of hemp that had been used in traditional cultures, particularly in Eastern Europe, and take those out to mainstream. And so I basically created the hemp foods industry in the UK, the first commercial hemp food products in the UK and throughout Europe, and ended up being very successful, and then helping others create hemp food products throughout United Kingdom before I came to Australia in 1999 to do a very similar thing. And created the hemp foods industry here, which took a little longer in Australia, a bit slower here. It took 17 years of my time to get it legal and to be used. But now Hemp Foods Australia is the biggest hemp foods company in the Southern Hemisphere. You're probably aware.
Yeah.
And really great things for Australian farmers and the like. So a good stable part of the industry, hemp food is. But I'm also involved with many other parts. I've supported people in the hemp building world, hemp processing, hemp fiber, hemp textiles, hemp paper, and particularly hemp plastics. So I spent a lot of time looking after my American company, the hemp plastic company, which uses waste products from the hemp and cannabis industry, turns that into materials that can be used in regular injection molding machines. So yeah, I've been doing all of that. Now I work for different governments, particularly the US government, in supporting and expanding hemp throughout the world. I've been to Africa and Asia this year, and being invited to the Middle East as well right now to do some work over there. So it's exciting to help build the industry wherever people want to use it.
Yeah, you're certainly, you've been such a great advocate. And when with the UK, was it not approved when you started heading down this path?
When I started heading down this path, it didn't exist, so no one knew about it. And I looked into the legislation, which is what I do for each one of my new projects as a very early stages. And in England, it was quite unusual, whereas hemp seeds were allowed because just were allowed, full stop. And
Just allowed.
the reason it was allowed was because it was a bird's food. So I realized there was actually already hemp seeds in the UK at the time I started, but it was only in the bird industry, in the feed industry, and I couldn't use those because they weren't food quality. But it was really helpful in terms of having a legal foundation to do what I wanted.
Yeah. Okay, that's great. I didn't know that bit. I just figured that how much trouble was it when you consider the 17 years of
Mm.
hard slog to get Australia
Mm.
and New Zealand over the line. It was just a
Nothing like
bizarre
Australia.
thing.
Nothing like Australia. Of course,
Yeah.
Australia is unique.
So one thing I'm really excited about now, the last time we met, um, you'd really just started putting together your psychedelic cannabis
Mhm.
therapy program.
Mhm. Mhm.
You were just about to launch your first practitioner's course, and I've seen that this is progressing.
Mhm.
I think this is a really interesting item. I
Mhm.
love the way you're doing it, but I also love the fact that you're educating people how to pass this on.
Mhm.
How'd you come to this point? Was it through a pathway of interest in psychedelics, or was it um, just a branch of trying to get people to use their cannabis better?
Well, the answer to this is a bit more complicated and in depth, and so I wish I'll share with you now. And it is an interesting story. The short answer is both of those things. The longer answer is that I pretty much spent my entire career having a very clear line that industrial hemp is not marijuana. It's not
Yep.
cannabis. It doesn't get you high, and that's true. And I was speaking the truth the whole time. There was a part of me that had consumed cannabis originally for recreational purposes. And then a lot of time in my career, for a very long time, I didn't actually consume it at all. And I had no issues with that whatsoever. After I left my public world, I, remembered and, I guess to defrag and relax a little bit after all that public company work, I found cannabis to be extremely helpful again in very small quantities. And it was after I kind of resigned from my public company world that I was able to really take a look back about what I'd done and how I could be of help in the future. And a company, my friends had opened a company in the psychedelic space saying, "Hey, Paul, you should be involved with the psilocybin world because it's very similar in terms of the legal changes you've done for hemp and cannabis. Why don't you do that?" So I actually spent a year of my life in psilocybin, which is the only other significant job I've ever done outside of cannabis in my entire life. And it was spending a year running a psilocybin manufacturing company. And I was so honored to have done that later on in my career, where I had already had the experience that if you want to do something, you should do it in the best possible way. So I did that, and I decided to get a board of advisors with the most experienced psychedelic people I could find in academia around the world. And I was honored to meet some people from the, London universities and America and throughout the world, ultimately, who had focused on psilocybin. They supported me in creating a protocol for a psilocybin trial in Australia. Cut a long story short, we never progressed with the trial in the end, even though we had written 99% of it, just because of the financial challenges. And instead, the company pivoted to be a manufacturer of psilocybin, and that's what it does today. And honestly, I've done enough manufacturing in hemp and cannabis and pioneered enough stuff in that world. I didn't really want to get involved with that again. So I
A
was
lot of moving pieces, isn't there? When
there
you
is, and that's okay. It's just I didn't need to do it again, basically. So I resigned from that part of my world and said, let me help um, and support the company, from afar, which I did. Then I had to sit and meditate and go, wow, why did I just spend a year doing something outside of cannabis. It was a bit strange. Maybe it's time to retire and get in my garden and just grow my own few plants under license, of course.
Yeah, of course.
Of course, and which I did and I do. And so it just came to me one day that why don't I use a similar protocol from psilocybin, but use cannabis? And I was like, I wonder if that works. So I tried it on myself, as you would, with my own legal medical supply of cannabis. And I found amazing results. And I was inspired by a friend in Colorado who I'd worked with previously. He suggested this would work. And I was quite shocked because I'd worked with psilocybin and I've had experiences with ayahuasca and DMT and the powerful plant medicines. And I thought, having consumed cannabis on and off most of the time, I guess, on for the last 30 odd years, that I understood what cannabis is. And what I realized is that, wow, there's yet another use to this plant. Not only can it be used for food and bioplastics and fuel and paper and textiles and building and medicine, but it can actually be used as a psychedelic plant that helps relieve and look at, I guess, one's individual traumas and one's individual patterns, I guess, is a better way to put it. So I was really excited to find that a new possibility for this plant. So I, of course, practiced it again and then suggested a few other people practice, and then ultimately created a protocol for what I now call cannabis psychedelic experience. And it is even for people who've consumed all their lives and for people who've never consumed but never had good experience, or people who had consumed but had a bad experience. For all types of people, this works for. And I've tried it again and again and again. And I'm shocked still every time I run courses and run experiences by how deep this medicine is and how powerful it is. Because when people who have had these other, I guess, significant experiences like DMT and ayahuasca and etc. and psilocybin, and they come to me and say, Paul, this was more powerful and stronger and better, and it's available now, and it's legal, and it's more cost effective. This is mainstream. This is what needs to change the world. And just watching them glow and watching the actual change in their personalities, it's been an honor, honestly. And that honor is mine and feels like a gift from the plant. So I feel like to give back. I started to offer this experience to a number of people, and that started to grow. And I realized, wow, I'm one person. I need to do something else. I can't.
You need to scale.
Yeah, I need to scale it. How do I scale myself? And that was what I came to. I was like, well, why don't I go back to all the friends that I made in the psychedelic trial world, who are psychotherapists, psychiatrists, doctors, professors, experts in all different forms, and then add all my friends from my cannabis world who taught me about terpenes and science and the history, and bring them all together, all with a focus on how we can give people the deepest experience with this plant so that people can meet the plant spirit, literally have the true plant spirit and themselves in an uninterrupted environment. And that's ultimately what we came to create. And that's now what I call the Cannabis Psychedelic Facilitators Training Course, of which we've had numerous cohorts through now, and people are now offering this therapy or experience, not therapy, this guided facilitation of the cannabis medicine that people can take for themselves all over the country. And it's wonderful to see. And it's wonderful to see it's starting to gain momentum. Now, it's doing it slowly. I don't often talk about it. It's new. And I don't often talk about it because I don't feel like it's something I need to push, promote, try. It's something that people are called to, plants for their wisdom, their perspective. And I believe that they help us to see what we already know, that we are connected, we are not separate. And that there is something beyond the ego, beyond our mind and thought processes. And when we come to that clearer, cleaner space, we can often get perspective. And that perspective can show us, oh, when I was 4, I was told this, and that really affected me. And that has now changed and created a pattern in my life that I now follow. And just by looking at that and being able to see that, without being there, without being that 4-year-old anymore. And again, that's what the facilitation part is about. Is we're not psychotherapists, but we are supported by them to understand how to give space to people so that they can see their deep-seated trauma without being attached to it, without being it too much, and to give it some space. That is the beginning of healing and ultimately becoming more yourself, a better version of ourselves. So I am so grateful for this medicine. I am so grateful for the opportunity to have been able to share this, and in a completely legal way as well. It's really fascinating and fun.
It's great to see the excitement in you too, Paul. Like it's obviously become something that you really are giving back now. It's not an industry, it's a gift that you're giving back into the community. So how many students have you had through the facilitators course so far?
At this date, it's been about 30 people or so,
Oh, good.
of facilitators. So it's still very early stages, in my opinion.
Oh, that's strong though.
I think we're gonna have hundreds. But and all types of people as well. It's fascinating. Some people are, come from the medical world and from the psychotherapy world or the pharmacy world, but predominantly it's mainly people who are already in the healing industry itself. So people are off a massage, people are off even aesthetics, beauticians and the like. I've had nurses come through, and I've had just, your average person who like really has believed in this plant and wants to help people, I guess, understand it in a more respectful and deep way. And that's ultimately what this is about, really connecting with, a lot of this is taken from the true indigenous use of this plant. And yeah, it's sacred in one way, it's fun in another way, and it's deep and meaningful in another way. And all of those things can happen together. They don't have to be separate.
That's the wonderful thing about working with herbs, isn't it? They're so holistic.
Yeah, they are. And it's funny you mentioned that, Andrew, is that, right now in Australia today, medical doctors are the ones in charge of this medicine, which kind of, to me, doesn't quite make sense yet. It does in some respects, but I think it's a stepping stone for naturopaths to take and herbalists to take on, because it's a herb. It's a natural plant. And it's a complicated natural plant as well. And maybe we can get onto that in a second, and why I actually created the Happy Clinic, even subsequently, again, trying to retire, but I keep creating new businesses, mainly because I
retire. I can never see you retire. That's ridiculous.
That's not true. I never try to retire. I slow down. I find myself creating new businesses because I see new opportunities, not to make money, but new opportunities in how we can use this plant in better ways that people are not doing. Generally, they're not doing it because of the monetary reasons, because initially pioneering these things costs money. So I don't mind doing that to help support people get a deeper understanding so that they can relate to this plant in the way I believe we're meant to, which is individually.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and right now, when doctors are taught to prescribe a THC or CBD product for everyone that comes for any use for cannabis, I'm like, that makes no sense. There's thousands of types of cannabis available in Australia today, let alone more available. And there's millions and billions of people in the world that all need a different type of cannabis for a different reason. So, how can the doctors ever understand this? And that's what I'm trying to bridge the gap to do that in that business as well. So I've moved on already from the cannabis psychedelics, but and the reason I have is because that's one supports the other. Is like to have a true experience, and that's what it's all ultimately about, to use this medicine in the deepest, most respectful, safest possible way. All of those things together requires an industry, a whole perspective on this.
Yeah, and it certainly won't hurt the marketplace to have you in there in a clinic situation. Try and bring a more holistic view into how you prescribe and what you're prescribing for people if they're going to use it in other experiences. Have you found through the facilitation that any particular strain, blend, balance of CBD, THC is more effective, or is it?
But again, I mean, the challenges for me is that now I have a clinic. First of all, I don't prescribe anything. I'm not a doctor. I train doctors and offer them decision support tools so that they can make the right decision for the individual client. with the right product. And to answer your question, yeah, there are some things that we recommend people to consider when choosing their medicine with their doctor for bringing to this experience. And it is not that important as well, on some respect, because really in this particular world of cannabis psychedelic facilitation, you are simply meeting with the cannabis spirit and the cannabis plant itself. So some people, a homeopathic dose is enough. Really a small, like tiny amount of their medicine. And it depends where they come from, their history, and what part of the world. This is not about taking hero doses and massive amounts of a medicine beyond what they're prescribed. It's not at all. It's just having it in a safe protocol. And that protocol is, starts with your setting, starts with your intention, and starts with your relationship between your facilitator, guide, and what you're coming into these experiences with. So this entire process is what matters more than even the type of medicine that you use, the type of cannabis that you use. And I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah, and I mean this will get teased out with time as well in terms of what is more effective or what suits people. Like if it's not great their first experience, maybe trying something new is something you can guide them to through the clinic, which sounds great. And just the fact that people are using so many different variants from a medical cannabis point of view, and so many different delivery systems and types of products, that it's great that they can come in and plug that into your experience and get a great outcome.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the most important things when choosing a natural plant flower is that you're getting something that's fresh, it's clean, it's mold free, it's pest free, it's chemical free. So I'm personally, my personal choice is to get something that's certified organic, grown in Australian soil, as local to me as possible. And it doesn't have to be the super like 30% THC at all. I mean, something much less is more suitable for me personally. And even with that, I can have these true psychedelic experiences.
Yeah, it sounds great, and so accessible. And as you said, it's a legal pathway for people who are getting prescribed or getting exemptions to use cannabis for specific ailments. That this is another level or another layer that they can undo that may be sort of underpinning the other condition that they're getting treated for anyway. So
Exactly. It's a positive loop. But it is a gateway drug, Andrew. Cannabis is a gateway drug. And I have found that it is a gateway to health and wellness. And that as soon as you get involved with these things, you realize that breath work can help, meditation can work, change of lifestyle can work. And these are all supportive in bringing people, to, I guess, a clearer part of being themselves. So this is not about anything else but that. So it does lead to more awareness of these things in one's life, and generally, the want to do something about that. And that's where change starts. It's like the intention. Do we actually want to change? Because most people are just like, oh, I'm comfortable in my pain. I'm like, are you? Okay, great. Are you really? And until it's really too much, it's like, okay, now you're willing to change. Great. Okay, here's your opportunity to do that for yourself. And previously, we've relied on psychotherapists and talk therapy, and all that's great. And I'm definitely never going to put that down. I found that useful for many people. And this is a tool that could be more powerful. One of the nurses that I recently treated, one of her parts of her feedback was that 3 sessions with me was more powerful than all of the psychotherapy for her trauma that she had done in entire life. For like 30 years of therapy work, she said, 3 experiences changed her and help her see all the issues and move on, more importantly, and has kept that change in her life. Those are the kind of things that excite me when I hear that. And again, it doesn't happen from everyone. I'm not making any claims that it happens for anyone whatsoever. But that's when I hear these things, I'm going, okay, this is worth exploring further and deeper, and giving people an opportunity to trial this themselves. Because I'm not offering anything new. I mean, cannabis is already a legal medicine. People
Yeah.
can take it at home. Doctors are prescribing them just here, have some cannabis medicine. Yeah, you tick the boxes, so here, have it. It's like, and all I'm doing is like, well, if you're going to have it, maybe you might want to consider having it this way. And that's what I'm showing people is a safer, I believe, a much safer way than is legal today in Australia in the medicine system to just consume your own medicine in a space that leads you to have a look at yourself. And I'm not even leading people in any direction either. I am not the person that makes the change. It is the person and their relationship with this plant. So it's amazing.
That's great. And I mean, what you're saying about the 3 treatments, getting great results thing, having been involved, in a clinical setting myself and working with clients, you're right about the natural medicine thing. It's not a silver bullet. Like cannabis isn't the silver bullet. That's actually the acceptance of the past and the trauma and being at ease with it and moving forward is one of the big parts of the medicine. And the other thing is, because you've got people in your space, you can now teach them about the breath work and hydration and proper nutrition, which gives them great results. I found, like in a clinical setting, if you can give somebody a 10% improvement, that's such a huge improvement if they've
Mhm.
been in such a really chronic position, but it
Mhm.
also ignites their um, motivation to continue. The result is what drives the motivation, not the desire. So if we can get them over the line and just get that little bit of motivation to continue,
Mhm.
that's half the battle I've found.
Mhm.
And this just seems great. I mean, honestly, I'm going to have to come and have a talk to you about doing the facilitators course, but that's another issue. We'll get to that another time. So you've got a network of practitioners forming. Is there a central place, a platform where like people can locate a facilitator?
Yeah, they just come and they book a session at cannabis psychedelics.com.au, and I will depends on where they are. I will put them in contact with the
Okay.
therapist. At the moment, my location, that the RHQ here in the Byron Shire is the headquarters. But if there's someone in Cairns, Central Coast of Queensland, Sunshine Coast, Brisbane, Gold Coast, Tweed Heads, Sydney, Melbourne, wherever they want, there are therapists these days or people that will facilitate their experience with them. I pass that on to my group. So once you become a trainer, we have basically a group between us, and all opportunities for events and running sessions get put in there that we can't handle ourselves. So it's a great networking and community of people that I'm building up, that I hope can expand this modality beyond what I've created. And
Yeah.
so many people are bringing their own little tweaks and additions to it. And, again, if the core part of the protocol is held, then we can only add to that. There is
Yeah, absolutely.
a lot of opportunities ahead.
So the clinic that you got, the Happy Clinic,
Hmm.
is that an online clinic for doctor prescriptions for
Yeah,
exemptions?
it's an online clinic for where doctors can meet patients, and the doctors in my clinic, are obviously already very highly qualified in their position. But on top of that, I've given them what we call a decision support tool, which allows them to understand the current medications available in Australia, the details of those medications, what they're made up from, where they come from, whether they're certified organic or pure APIs or whatever they are, and what the patient wants, and it matches up their needs and symptoms with the particular medicine, and gives the doctor all the scientific evidence and reasoning behind that suggested offering, and the doctors ultimately make up their own decisions from that, and that gives the patient the best opportunity to get matched with the correct medicine at very early stages, rather than having to come back 3 or 4 times or more, which is sometimes what you need to do to find something that works for you. Most people give up after the first time, and not many people will stay for the fourth time. So I'm trying to get it so people have a good experience with the medicine that suits them early on.
So there's no sort of locked in supply chain. Like
No, and
the
that's
doctors can choose from wherever the things available.
very important. And again, that's something I made consciously stayed away from at the beginning. I said I'm not going to be bought off by any company. I don't care how much money I lose. I'm caring about how much money I lose, but that's okay. But I'm not in it for that. That's not my priority. My
Yeah,
priority is really giving people the best experience as quickly as possible, so that they can get the benefits that everyone talks about and that we hear all over the place. They're real and they don't happen for everyone, predominantly because people get given the wrong medicine or wrong dosage information, or or just because they're focusing on money only. So I'm making sure that we focus on what's important, which is the client, the patient's
yeah.
experience ultimately.
That's awesome because there is definitely an issue in the medical cannabis industry now with that supply chain, people locked into, like clinics locked into a particular product line, which if it becomes unavailable, then the client is the one who misses out
Mm,
uh, in the time when they're trying to find another supplier. So I'm really glad to hear that you've got a diverse range of products available for your clinic to pull from.
mm.
And as you know, I'm pretty keen to get cannabis legalized on a broader scale. That would work in really well with your facilitators course. So I'd think that
Oh, totally. I mean, it already works for us. I think, I fully support cannabis legalization, because I believe that has to come with education. Education's there,
yeah,
and it just needs to be more widespread, and that's why I'm starting to spread it now. So I think these kind of things happen hand in hand, which is, I appreciate, being interviewed about this, because I think having the proper use of cannabis is critical if we are going to allow it for more people. Because, like anything, there are always people that abuse the system, and they're going to abuse it, whether it's a medicine, whether it's prescribed, whether it's legalized or not. There are always going to
yeah,
people abuse it. People abuse food. That just food. It's highly abused in this world. And so why wouldn't they abuse cannabis? They abuse relationships, they abuse sex, they abuse work, and their relationship to work. I mean, everyone abuses things, and that's the whole point of what cannabis psychedelic experience is about, is to help us look about what we are abusing, why we are abusing it, and
yeah,
maybe so that maybe we can consider if that's the best, is that truly the best thing for us? And yeah.
yeah. I mean, personally, I've had this conversation with a few people now, is that like the cannabis legalization process will be moved ahead a little bit faster, I think, if we work on legalizing a recreational version of cannabis for people, and maybe even divide it off from the medical, so that medically prepared stuff is still got a TGA oversight, and doctors can feel they've all got their beaks wet in a particular part of it, but that the recreational is not that, and that this allows, once again, it's education. We can't provide good community health education on a substance that the TGA is deeming to be a prohibited toxic substance.
Mhm.
There's an ethical issue there at a university level, that you can't do proper trials and tests because you can't give healthy subjects a toxic prohibited substance. There's so many reasons why we're not moving forward in our knowledge of cannabis and how it is, just because we've put this label on it. So I'm really keen to see that whole thing pulled apart and made available in a way that, you know, either I grow my own or I find a grower who is growing nice organic sun-grown, organic soiled cannabis locally,
Mhm.
and make it my fit that then I can take to a facilitator and have the proper meeting with that plant, the proper get together. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. No, I agree. I agree. I mean, again, for me, I like data. I do like science, and so I want the data from whatever plant I'm going to have. And all I know is that I'm seeing the black market is losing out for the medical industry now, because medically there are products that are clearly stated are safe. We know what the ingredients are. They're available every time, the same thing, and they're now half the price of the black market. And people don't believe all of those things are possible. So the industry is changing in that way. Now, of course, in Australia, you can't promote any of those things. You can't promote where things are from. You can't promote what it's for or any of those uses. That's purely, up to the doctors to discuss with a patient based upon the scientific research. So again, I'm only empowered right now to offer doctors more information about science, more information about, data, prices, facts, and I have to educate them to the people who are coming from the black market as well and saying this is what they're used to. This is why they have stayed away from the medical system to date. And at the beginning, they had good reason to do that. And these are why it's changing. So I can educate the doctor to communicate about these things. But, it's very challenging. I mean, it's very opposite to America, where America, you're allowed to talk about prescription drugs and you're allowed
Yeah,
to
yeah,
talk
advertise on television. Yeah.
absolutely for things that kill you, the side effects, death.
Yeah.
At least you can't say that for cannabis. That's all I know. There
Yeah,
is
you
spectrum.
don't have to say them quickly anyway.
And the side effects, you may feel better. You may feel, that we could do one of those.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so we're in an interesting stage in Australia in terms of changes, and there is, people abuse the system of even legal cannabis. And there's doctors who are prescribing like 17,000 prescriptions in 6 months. I mean, that's not safe. I agree, that shouldn't happen. That's not responsible prescribing. There's no way a doctor in every 3 minutes of their working life can actually get to know a client, understand what they want, give them what they want, and follow up with them the next time. It's
Yeah.
just possible.
And it's hard to believe that they're setting them off in a gentle economic pathway in their first prescription either. Like I've spoken to people who have just starting into medical cannabis, and they get offered so much straight off the bat. You
Mhm,
know, oils, you know,
mhm,
flour, edibles, all of the same prescription.
mhm, mhm.
Use these two here, use that one there. It's like coming from a motorsport background. If you were altering a race car, you wouldn't change that many things in one go. You change one thing at a time to see
Yeah.
what works and get some feedback and data on what's going on. So you can see there's definitely an overprescription in that process as well.
Mhm,
And I don't think it's giving the clients the best possible outcome because the expense stops them from coming back.
mhm.
They see themselves going, well, I can't afford to do this every month. So
Yeah. I mean, again, my only response to that is that everyone is different. For some people that
mm,
may be appropriate. Most people it isn't appropriate. I agree. And for different people, some of it's appropriate for different reasons. And that's the whole point. It's an individualized medicine for individualized people, for a plant that changes every time you grow it, even if it's the same genetic
yeah, that's
variety.
right. It's your same strain. You've cloned it from the last one, but
Yeah,
a different fertilizer, a different sunlight, different everything. It just
yeah, it's nature.
yeah,
So
it's a
and
plan.
which is why naturopaths and herbalists who are very well trained, may be more suited to understanding the nuances of a plant. So I'm looking to work with a bunch of naturopaths right now, a bunch of them. The industry in general to support them because they can't prescribe, but they can understand what people get from doctors and understand how to look at that and how that fits in with their lifestyle and other products that may suit them, to keep it balanced so they're not abusing these things because
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
And I mean, even the word abuse, like so many times people will
Horrible word. Yeah.
talk to me about self-medication and things and people overusing cannabis. And like you said,
Mhm.
people are self-medicating with sugar. They're self-medicating with caffeine. They're self-medicating with alcohol and food and all these things all the time.
Mhm.
And we've just got to see that when people are overusing anything, they're only trying to fulfill those bottom layers of the old hierarchy, Maslow's hierarchy. That something's not being met, and they're
Mhm.
trying the easiest thing they can control to get control of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
It's certainly, I know people who overuse cannabis and become reliant upon it,
Mhm.
and not because they're chemically addicted, but because life's easier and nicer with it. Why would they want to go back to the hard stuff? But they haven't resolved any problems because it's just another layer. And yeah,
It is.
there's no
And
silver bullets.
and it's a safer layer. It's definitely no silver bullets, but it's still a safer layer. If they're
Oh,
addicted
yeah.
to, opiates and they've moved on to something non-physically addictive, even if it is, preventing them from dealing with stuff, it's still a step in the right direction. I mean,
Yeah.
ultimately, we have to get to dealing with the core issues of whatever our symptoms are, and those core issues are sometimes generally very uncomfortable. And that's the thing, and that's the point, and that's where we've got to get to. And yeah, that's why I really believe in, and that's what I saw through psilocybin psychedelic trials here in Australia and around the world. And that's happening,
Yeah.
and the thing is, with those trials, they're very limited and very expensive.
Yeah.
Psilocybin and MDMA legal in Australia, except small print, $20,000, to have those experiences. I'm like, seriously? Cannabis is legal now and nowhere near that price
Yeah.
whatsoever. And so why wouldn't we just do it like that today?
I mean, but to be perfectly honest, I'd love to be able to see MDMA available at a chemist
Mm,
where people can say, look, I'm going to a concert this weekend. I'd like a couple of caps. At least then they're coming through a
mm,
pharmaceutical grade manufacturing facility and it's safe. And I
mhm.
think we're missing that whole point with, people have not stopped using recreational drugs.
Oh, well, we know prohibition doesn't work. It's
No,
just
that's right.
very clear. There's a lot of data to show that. So how do we deal with that? Do we, fight harder? Well, we've tried that for decades, never
Yeah,
worked.
doesn't
So
work.
why don't we just educate people and make it as safe as possible? And,
Yeah, that's what I'd like to see,
yeah.
right across the board.
Mm.
What do you think about the new excuse me, um, bit of scuttlebutt in the background from the AMA and ABC and the likes about these overprescribing doctors and clamping down on the medical cannabis industry?
Yeah, I agree with them, to
Yeah,
be honest. I do agree with them. And it's only one point of view. It's one perspective about the bad thing. It's like newspapers. If you read the news, you read all the bad things. You don't read about the lady whose cat was saved the day before, whose child made it through all of those challenges. You hear about the people that don't make it and the
yeah,
problems and the wars. You don't hear about all the positive peace things that happen. So again, that's news on a negative basis, and
yeah.
it's
It bleeds. Yeah,
what sells. And I agree with what they're saying. Yeah, but I'm just saying it's just one perspective. It's like, yeah, and there's doctors who prescribe far less in a really responsible way to support people in a medicine that they believe is better than what they were previously taking, which had more side effects and were more dangerous. So there's some great things as well. So, yes, there are those bad things, and yes, there is better things. And how is that balance in comparison to the pharmaceutical chemicals? And not all pharmaceutical chemicals. I'm not against the pharmaceutical
no,
industry or
some of them
chemicals,
work.
modern medicine. There's absolutely a place for those things. And there's a place for plants. And they're not in exactly the same place as well. They can't
No.
be put in exactly the same way. And it's just complicated.
Well, that's our problem with my biggest blockade I see with legalization in Australia is because of the way the TGA views things. And I
Mm.
think the conversation of constantly using, medicine as the term for carrying cannabis with us will hold us back because the TGA doesn't understand that difference between plants and chemicals. And as a herbalist, naturopath, we've lost some really, really good plants because of constituents in that plant with no understanding of the holistic
That's it.
makeup of the plant. And you
That's
know,
it.
the
That's it.
TGA is never going to blanketly approve people to be growing their own medicine if we keep talking about it as medicine. Because if they think we think it's medicine, then they want to regulate it, and that's going to be the bottom line. We need to start seeing the fun and relaxation and normalization of cannabis use.
Oh, I know. And then it just complicates it again because, for me, the difference between recreational and medicinal is there is none. I mean,
Well, that's right.
we have recreation for medicinal purposes. So does that mean the TGA should regulate recreation? I mean, God, I
They will
don't
want
want to say,
to.
yeah, I'm scared actually saying that because maybe they don't want to do that. But the thing is, people who need to relax, people who have a beer in the evening, they're not
That's right.
recreational. It's medicine. They had a hard day, stressful. They want to de-stress in some way. So how about you de-stress taking the safest hot plant?
Yeah, it's about that middle ground between hard recreation and hard medicine. that TJ and everyone needs to accept exists with all the other substances that are already regularly available, whether it's the person who gets up and says, I can't function until I've had 2 cups of coffee, or the person who gets stressed and has a cream bun, or the person who comes home from work and has a glass of red. It's the same person. But we know that there are other alternatives that are legally available are hurting them. Yeah, the sugar's hurting them, the alcohol's, there's no safe dose of alcohol. Like it does damage right from the get-go. It just doesn't make sense that we're not going, okay, let's make some really safe stuff available that people can look at a label and go, oh, it's this strain, it's this strong, it has these other qualities, and guided by the good old Colorado style bud keeper who can guide you to the right product. It just seems to make so much sense. Well, thanks so much for your time. You've given me more than enough on your busy schedule, and we will have to catch up about the facilitator course, and I will get the details off you for both the Happy Clinic and the experience bookings, and I'll share that in with the video so that people can go to the comments and find some information to get in contact with you if it's sparked an interest.
No worries, Andrew. It's always good to chat with you. I appreciate your work in sharing more information and knowledge, because information is power. We get to make decisions from that. We get to hear other people's experiences. So yeah, I hope you keep coming up with more quite good questions, and I look forward to chatting with you again.
We will. We certainly will, mate. I'm back up your way before the end of the year, so we'll catch up. Enjoy your 15-minute break before the next meeting. Yeah. Thanks, mate. See ya. Well, that was Paul Benhaim, and what a great interview. Really lovely fellow, and I really enjoy spending some time with him. So I will get details off Paul, and I'll put them in the byline for this video. Contacts for the psychedelic cannabis experience and the courses to become a facilitator, and a link to the new Happy Clinic, where you can get some highly educated doctors talking to you about your needs as a cannabis prescription. See you next time on A Weed to Know.
Weed to know, cannabis info on a weed to know.
And once again, thanks for joining us on A Weed to Know. Presented by Andrew Fenwick, that's me. Music by Daniel Arvidsson, a famous Newcastle musician. If you like what you hear, if you have any comments, put them in the comments box. If you have any questions or any information that you'd like to share, please get in touch. And once again, thanks for joining us.